The TIE advanced, cut across the dune sea low and fast, twin ion engines screaming over wind-scoured ridges of red sand. Inside the cockpit, Darth Vader sat motionless, gloved hands resting on the controls, his mechanical breathing the only sound in the small armored space. He had come to Tatooine hunting a Jedi, a name on a list, another loose thread of the old order to be cut. He expected nothing else from this world. He had buried it long ago. Then he felt it, a presence in the Force, bright, familiar, impossible. Vader brought the TIE Advance down hard on a desolate outcropping miles from any settlement. He stepped out into a heat he no longer felt, the suit regulating his body the way it had since Mustafar, and turned his masked face toward the source of the disturbance. The Force pulled him southwest, toward a moisture farm he had no reason to know, and every reason to remember. He walked the last kilometer on foot, cloak snapping in the wind. From a ridge above the homestead, he watched a small boy crouched in the dirt beside a half-dismantled vaporator, sleeves rolled up, brow furrowed with concentration. The boy's small hands worked the wiring with a confidence no child his age should possess. The Force around him glowed. Vader's mechanical lungs hitched, a sound no Imperial officer had ever heard from him. The pattern of the presence was unmistakable. It carried Padme's warmth. It carried something else, too. Something Vader had not felt from any living being since the lava had taken him. It carried himself, his son. He had been told the child died. Palpatine had told him. He had believed it the way a drowning man believes there is no shore. And yet, the boy was alive, in the dust of Anakin Skywalker's own homeworld, raised by Anakin Skywalker's own stepbrother. From a different ridge, half a kilometer to the north, an old man in desert robes watched the same scene. Obi-Wan Kenobi had felt the disturbance the moment the TIE Advance screamed overhead. His hand moved instinctively to the lightsaber hidden beneath his cloak. But Vader did not descend. He turned, walked back to his ship, and left Tatooine without informing his master. For the first time in 8 years, Anakin Skywalker had made a choice of his own. He came back. Not openly. Never openly. Vader filed false flight plans. He routed through Mustafar, through Rylith, through outposts where his presence raised no questions. He told the Emperor he was hunting rumors of a Jedi survivor in the Outer Rim. It was not entirely a lie. He stood on ridges above the Lars farm at dusk, motionless for hours, watching the boy work. He stood in the Junlin Waste at night, listening through the Force as Luke slept in a small room with a window that faced the twin suns rising. He did not approach. He did not speak. He told himself he was confirming a threat. He was not confirming a threat. Obi-Wan Kenobi watched too, from his own ridges, from his own distances. He had spent 8 years on this rock waiting for the day Vader's hunt would come full circle. And now that the day had arrived, nothing about it was what he had prepared for. Vader was not abducting the child. Vader was not killing the child. Vader was watching the child the way a man watches a fire he is afraid will go out. Kenobi sat in his hovel for many nights, turning the riddle over with his hands. He spoke with Qui-Gon through the Force, voice low in the dark, and received no clear answer in return. Only the question that something in his old apprentice had not yet finished dying. It was not redemption. Obi-Wan was too disciplined to call it that. It was something smaller and stranger. It was a crack. And cracks, given time, could let in light. He resolved to wait, and to watch the Watcher. Enjoying our alternative Star Wars universe? Consider liking and hitting the hype button to show us your support. Don't forget to subscribe for more mind-bending tales from the Star Wars universe. On Coruscant, Sheev Palpatine sat in a black chair in a black room and felt something he had not felt in years. Doubt, but not his own. His apprentice was hiding something. He summoned Vader to the throne room and tested him as Sith Masters had tested apprentices since the days of Bane. He spoke of the Jedi survivor on Tatooine, watching Vader's body for any flicker of tension. He spoke of Padme Amidala, the name that had once been a knife in Vader's chest. He spoke of children, of futures, of the importance of severance. Vader did not move, but Palpatine had taught him to lie. Palpatine knew his own work. When Vader had been dismissed, the Emperor turned to the Grand Inquisitor, a Palpatine in black armor whose face had once worn the robes of a Jedi temple guard, and gave a single quiet instruction: watch him. 3 Inquisitors were dispatched to the Outer Rim under cover identities. An Imperial intelligence officer was given a list of star systems to flag for unusual Imperial traffic. Tatooine appeared on the list 7 times in 2 months. Vader felt the noose tightening before any of them reached the Dune planet. He was Sith. He understood paranoia from both sides of the throne. He understood that the Emperor was no longer testing him with words. The Emperor was testing him with men. For the first time in his service, Vader did something a loyal apprentice would not do. He began to misdirect them. Fake sightings, forged reports, bounties placed on smugglers in distant sectors to draw the Inquisitors away. The Hunter became a smuggler of his own secrets, and the Force, slow and patient, took note. The meeting was Obi-Wan's idea. He chose the place, a dry canyon at the edge of the Junlan Waste where the wind could carry no sound to listening ears. He chose the hour, the brief blue moment before the second sun crested the horizon. He chose to come unarmed. That last part was a lie. The lightsaber was clipped to the inside of his robe, but Vader would know that. Obi-Wan was not trying to deceive him about the weapon. He was trying to communicate something else. Vader came home. The TIE Advanced settled in a hollow 2 ridges away, and the dark figure walked the rest of the distance on foot, cloak black against the pale rock. They faced each other across 30 meters of sand. Neither drew. "You haven't taken him?" Obi-Wan asked. The respirator hissed in the cold air. "No." "Why?" The single syllable that came back was not an answer. It was a question Vader had not yet permitted himself to ask aloud.
"Why does it matter to you?"
They spoke for the better part of an hour, not as master and apprentice, not as Jedi and Sith, as 2 men who had stood on the bank of a lava river and lost everything they had ever loved on the same day. Obi-Wan did not call him Anakin. Vader did not threaten to strike him down. They negotiated, in the way old enemies sometimes do when a child's life is on the table between them. The terms were simple. The boy stays. The boy lives. Neither of them takes him. When Vader turned to leave, Obi-Wan saw, for one breath, one impossible breath, the man inside of a mask. The shoulders had a memory of how they used to carry themselves. Then, it was gone. The sandstorm came in fast off the Dune Sea, the kind of weather Tatooine farmers learned to read by the second sun. Owen and Beru had Luke inside before the wind hit the wall, but the boys slipped out a back hatch during the worst of it, chasing a runaway droid, the way 10-year-olds will, and the storm swallowed him. Tusken Raiders found him first. There were 11 of them. They took him for ransom, or for sport, or for whatever obscure purpose the Sand People kept their own counsel about. They moved him through the storm to a camp deep in the rocks of the Junlan Wastes. Vader felt it the way a parent feels a misstepped step in the dark. He did not call for Imperial reinforcements. He did not log his movements. He boarded the TIE Advanced and flew through the storm with his targeting computer screaming warnings he ignored. What happened in the Tusken camp that night would not appear in any Imperial record. No survivors lived to give a report. The bodies were left for the Krayt dragons. But this time, Vader did not kill the children. He stopped himself in the middle of it. Lightsaber raised, a Tusken youngling cowering at his boot, the same red rage in his veins that had taken him 13 years ago in his mother's hut. And he stopped. He stood there breathing through the mask, hearing his own respirator instead of his own heartbeat, and he lowered the blade. He left the children alive. When he carried Luke back to the homestead before dawn and laid him in the dust at the edge of Owen Lars's fence, the boys stirred just long enough to see a tall figure in black armor walking back into the storm. The image stayed with Luke for years. A guardian, he would later tell himself. A dream. 1,000 light years from the suns of Tatooine, the rain fell on Alderaan and a senator paced his study. Bail Organa had spent a decade managing 2 terrors at once. The empire he served by day, he had watched the Inquisitorius extend its reach across the Outer Rim, watched Imperial traffic spike around backwater systems where no traffic should be, and his analyst had begun flagging a pattern. Tatooine. He sat across from Mon Mothma in a windowless room and laid out the dossiers. Imperial movements, bounty postings, a TIE advanced, registered through 3 false transponders, all of which traced back to a flag officer the Senate did not officially know existed. He knows, Bail said quietly. Mon Mothma understood without being told which he and which boy. They cannot act openly. Open action would confirm the very intelligence the Empire was hunting. Instead, they did what the early rebellion did best. They prepared contingencies, a safe house on Naboo, a coded extraction route through the Bothan sector, a second household ready to take the boy if Owen Lars and his wife were lost. Leia was 11 that year. She came to the study door looking for her father and was sent gently away before she could see the hollows on the table. But she felt the weight of the room when the door closed. She would remember it later, the way the children remember the shape of secrets they were not yet old enough to read. 2 children, 2 planets, 2 parents in shadow. The Force, which is patient, began to draw the lines that would one day meet. The Skywalkers did not yet know they were a family, but the galaxy was beginning to. Palpatine was not satisfied. 2 years of false reports and dead-end leads had told him exactly what truth-telling never could. His apprentice was protecting something. He did not yet know what. He was content to wait. Sith Masters did not chase the prey. They shaped the ground until the prey came to them. Vader felt the trap building and could not stop it. So, he did the only thing left to him. He went back to Tatooine more often, and he felt in the smallest ways he could devise to teach the boy. Not directly. Never directly. Vader did not appear at the homestead. He did not speak to Luke, but he left things in the boy's path. A discarded power converter, perfectly tuned, where Luke would find it on a salvage run. A broken speeder in the dunes, repaired just enough that a clever child could finish it. A storm warning whispered through the Force into the boy's sleeping mind on a night the moisture crop would otherwise have been lost. Luke grew up believing he was lucky. He was not lucky. He was being raised. Obi-Wan saw it. Obi-Wan had been doing the same thing from the other side of the dune line for years, leaving lessons in the boy's path, never close enough to risk discovery. Shaping a Skywalker the way Skywalkers always had to be shaped, with patience and distance and a great deal of quiet hope. It was the strangest tutorship in the history of the Force. A Jedi Master and a Sith Lord sharing a student, sharing a planet, sharing a silence neither would ever break. Luke worked on his uncle's farm and dreamed of leaving Tatooine. He did not know how many people were already there with him. The Inquisitor came on a freighter from Mos Espa. She was new, ambitious, sharp, certain she was the one who would finally bring the Pau'an's old prize home to him. She had a lead on a Jedi survivor in the waste outside Anchorhead. She had a name from a slave's memory and a face from a hollow. She was not entirely wrong. Obi-Wan felt her coming the way one feels weather change. He understood in the same moment what was required of him. If the Inquisitorius found him here, they would tear the planet apart looking for the reason he had stayed. They would find the homestead. They would find the boy. So Obi-Wan did what Obi-Wan had always done. He drew the fire. He moved openly into Mos Eisley. He let himself be seen. He let himself be recognized. He fought when fighting was necessary and led the chase deep into the dunes, away from the Lars farm, away from Luke. Word reached Coruscant within hours. General Kenobi was on Tatooine. Vader was dispatched personally. The Emperor was watching this time. Vader could not refuse. He arrived at the head of an Imperial detachment and pursued his old master across the waste for a day and a night. And at the end of it, he caught Obi-Wan alone in a canyon, exhausted, lightsaber raised. They looked at each other. There were Imperial troopers 2 ridges away. There were Inquisitors closing fast. Vader struck the rocks above the canyon, brought down a wall of stone between himself and Obi-Wan, and reported to the Emperor that the Jedi had escaped through unknown means. It was the first time he had openly defied Palpatine. It would not be the last. Obi-Wan, bleeding and alive, walked back to his hovel through the dark and wept. Luke was 17 the first time he saw the man in black armor without the storm hiding him. He was alone in the dunes, working on a salvaged speeder. when the wind shifted and the Force shifted with it. He looked up, and there was a tall figure standing on the ridge above him. Black cloak, black helmet, the hiss of a respirator he had heard once in a dream when he was 10 years old. Luke did not run. He did not know why. Vader came down the ridge slowly. What followed was not the conversation either of them had imagined. Vader spoke in fragments. He told the boy that the Jedi had lied about his father. He told the boy that the Empire was rotted from the inside. He told the boy that there were forces in the galaxy that wanted him dead and forces that did not, and the boy would have to learn the difference. He did not say his name. He did not say the word son. But Luke felt something in the air between them, a pull, a recognition, a wrongness he could not place. The man in black was a monster. Every part of Luke's 17-year-old instincts told him so. And yet, when Vader turned to leave, Luke called after him. "Who are you?" The respirator hissed in the long silence.
Someone who knew your father.
And then, he was gone, climbing the ridge, vanishing into the dunes. Luke did not tell Owen. He did not tell Beru. He did not tell old Ben, who he sometimes visited in the evenings to ask questions a boy could not ask his uncle. He kept the encounter locked inside himself for years, but he carried it with him to Mos Eisley. He carried it to the Death Star. He carried it down the trench at Yavin. A seed, waiting. By the time the Tantive 4 came apart above Tatooine, and a princess hid a message in a small astromech, 3 Skywalkers and 1 old Jedi were already moving toward the same point in space. Obi-Wan knew Luke would come to him soon. He had known for years. When the boy arrived at his hotel with R2-D2 in tow and a hologram of a girl he did not yet know was his sister, Obi-Wan was ready. He told Luke about his father, most of the truth, the part of the truth a boy could carry, and he did not mention the figure in the dunes. There was enough time for that later, he hoped. Vader knew too. Vader had felt the Tantive 4's distress before the first stormtrooper reported it. He had stood on the bridge of the Devastator listening to Tarkin describe the new station, the planet killer, the terror weapon, and he had understood with absolute clarity that the Empire was about to murder the senator who had raised his daughter. He could not stop it. Not yet. Not without revealing everything. So, Alderaan died, and Leia screamed, and a princess and a smuggler and a farm boy made their improbable way to Yavin 4 with a stolen data tape and a slim chance. The Death Star moved into firing position. Vader took the TIE Advanced into the trench himself, as he had in the other timeline, but this time, he was hunting 2 pilots. The one in the X-Wing he could not bring down, and the gunner on the station above him whose finger hovered over the trigger of the super laser. When Luke's torpedoes flew, Vader was the one who jammed the targeting computer for the 8 seconds it took. His TIE spun into space. He did not pursue. Behind him, the Death Star bloomed into light. For the first time since Mustafar, Anakin Skywalker had acted openly against his master. The galaxy did not yet know. But the Force did. And somewhere in the dust of Tatooine, an old man closed his eyes and smiled. If you enjoyed this journey into an alternative Star Wars universe where destiny takes unexpected turns and balance means something entirely different, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We explore the infinite possibilities hidden within the galaxy far, far away, asking the questions that reshape everything you thought you knew. The Force has many paths. Come discover them with us.